Autosport Star of Tomorrow Championship. Let's join Simon Taylor at the start of the 10-lap race.
26 Formula Ford cars pour off the starting grid here in Birmingham, and in the lead at once it's Justin Bell in number 12 from Gavin Wills in number 30. This is the Dunlop Autosport Star of Tomorrow Championship, and this means that it's a race purely for novices. These are people in their first full season of racing, and this is a wonderful nursery that they can use to demonstrate their prowess and their talent to the world at large. And the man out in front, number 12, Justin Bell, and that name Bell is a familiar one because he is the son of the world sports car champion Derek Bell, the teenage son of Derek Bell in his first season of racing, and from pole position he's taken the lead in the race and is driving like a veteran. Gavin Wills, fifth in the championship at the moment, and the yellow car is in second place, and coming through into third place on the outside, having a little look at the outside, that's Derek Higgins, who's the current championship leader. Derek Higgins in the red car. They're very close to the barrier. In fact, I think that Higgins might have kissed the barrier as they go down. We've got yellow flags waving in the background. As always, Formula Ford racing fast and furious. Justin Bell still has the lead as they go up now towards the Red X corner, but Justin Bell being challenged now by Gavin Wills. Gavin Wills in the yellow car having a look at one side and then the other as they go into Bromsgrove Street now, and a battle, a wheel-to-wheel battle for third place with Derek Higgins being challenged, but now into the Shell corner and round to complete the first lap, and still it's Justin Bell from Gavin Wills with Derek Higgins in third place, and in fourth place somebody who's come storming up through, that's Derek Higgins. And a spin for Justin Bell. Justin Bell spins hard backwards into the barrier, so Justin Bell does it all wrong, having led from pole position. The rear suspension is damaged, the rear wheel, the right-hand rear wheel at a drunken angle, and we see it again. Justin Bell under very strong pressure from Gavin Wills, and it goes wide coming out of champion corner. The car spins round. The rest of the field are able to squeeze by on the outside, but as the car goes all the way round through 360 degrees, it goes very hard backwards into the unyielding Armco barrier. Justin Bell's race is over at only the end of the first lap, just going into the second lap, and that means that Gavin Wills currently leads from Derek Higgins. Derek Higgins it is who's the championship leader. And now they come weaving from side to side. Higgins is challenging. Higgins alongside Gavin Wills, and surely he's going through. He does. Hard on the brakes as they go into Red X corner. And it's Higgins from Wills. In third place it's now Richard Reynolds in the Reynard, number 13, the white car is in third place, and fourth is Andy Charlie in the Van Diemen. Those are the first four on this second lap as we see them coming through Shell corner to complete that lap. Derek Higgins, the championship leader from the second row of the grid, leads from Gavin Wills. Richard Reynolds in third place, and fourth, number 33, is Andy Charlie. Derek Higgins no doubt helped by that spin from Justin Bell, because it was Bell who was leading, but Bell from pole position under a lot of pressure at the time from Gavin Wills. Gavin Wills took the lead, but not for very long, because Higgins was soon able to get it back again. And now the challenge is coming from Richard Reynolds, and they're all side by side. In fact, Gavin Wills goes alongside on the outside as they go down into the Halfords corner, scrabbling for grip, and Richard Reynolds goes rather wide, and behind him Andy Charlie has a bit of an opposite lock moment, but the order remains the same. So it's still Derek Higgins the leader in the red car, Gavin Wills in second place, the yellow car. The white car in third place is Richard Reynolds, number 13, and Andy Charlie is fourth in the Van Diemen. Derek Higgins from Windsor in the Ray 86F. This is last year's Ray. Justin Bell, the car that he crashed, was one of this year's Rays, but it's the 86F Ray of Derek Higgins which leads. And now Higgins seems to be shaking off the opposition just a little bit. By Formula Ford standards, they're not as close as they might be. Gavin Wills in second place. Oh, and so close to that Armco barrier on the outside of Zenith Bend. Little gap, and then a little gap emerging between the first pair and the second pair as Gavin Wills starts to put the pressure on Derek Higgins. So Justin Bell out of the race, but quite unhurt, although his car fairly badly damaged, and Wills on the outside. But it's Higgins who keeps the inside line at Champion Corner. Still Justin's car on the outside of the track parked there, but they all avoid that. And Derek Higgins hanging on to this lead by the narrowest possible of margins, but Gavin Wills wants it back. He pulls out of the slipstream, but now there's a challenge on the other side from Richard Reynolds, and it's Richard Reynolds who's coming through. And oh, the door is shut in his face by Derek Higgins. Richard Reynolds making a tremendous effort there, and you can hear their tyres scrabbling for grip as they go into Halfords corner. Somebody going very, very wide indeed behind them, but that leading quartet is neatly through. Derek Higgins in 73 leads, Gavin Wills in second place, Richard Reynolds is third, and it's Reynolds who's going from side to side in his efforts to make up the place, and he's got the inside line down to Ferodo, and he's through. Into second place goes number 13, Richard Reynolds, demoting the former leader Gavin Wills to third, and still in fourth place it's Andy Charsley. A fantastic quartet, a classic Formula Ford battle between these ones, and now here comes Richard Reynolds once more. He has a look at the outside and he just goes straight round under braking, an incredible piece of driving, and somehow he still managed to get through the corner, and it's Richard Reynolds from Shoreditch in the Reynard who is absolutely storming up to the front of this field. Derek Higgins trying to fight back. Gavin Wills still third, Andy Charsley fourth, as he has been all through the race, then another quartet behind them, and in car number 40 is Paul Stewart, and he's in ninth place at the moment. Paul Stewart, who had a very unfortunate practice session this morning when he got involved in somebody else's accident, and that meant that he started well down on the grid. But Paul Stewart, who's being watched by his father, his famous father, Jackie Stewart, the three-time world champion, is doing a tremendous job, passing Justin Bell's car there, which is parked in the barriers, and behind the two leading quartets of 1 to 4 and 5 to 8. In ninth place is Paul Stewart, and already he's catching up with that four-car group in front of him. So Paul Stewart doing a very impressive job. Remember, all of these cars have identical power, identical tyres, they have no aerodynamic additions, they're not allowed fins or aerofoils. And the battle going on, and at the front it's become a three-car battle because we seem to have lost Andy Charsley. No sign of Andy Charsley as Richard Reynolds, number 13, the white Reynard. Oh, and he's straight off into the barriers. Richard Reynolds understeers straight off into the barriers at Ferodo corner. The car buried into the tyres. He's obviously unhurt, but I bet he's very disappointed, having come up to lead. We watch it again. He had a comfortable lead by Formula Ford standards. He left his braking too late. The car understeers straight on under braking. There's nothing he can do about it. It won't answer to the helm. He runs wide and he goes skating on the rough stuff straight into the tyres. Thump. Richard Reynolds then out of the race, and that will promote Paul Stewart a little bit, but what that means is that all on his own suddenly is Derek Higgins, who looks around saying, goodness me, where's everybody gone? Derek Higgins then, and that's what's happened. Gavin Wills, who is in second place, has also spun. So suddenly Derek Higgins finds himself all on his own because Richard Reynolds is out and Gavin Wills has spun. And so now on the 5th of 10 laps, we have Derek Higgins all on his own, out in front, the championship leader in the Ray, Derek Higgins from Windsor, with, as I keep saying by Formula Ford standards, because this must be about the closest class of racing around, he has a very comfortable lead. Higgins then into Halfords corner, sliding the tail out as he comes out, for a glance in his mirrors, and away, and absolutely comfortably out there on his own. with the rest of the field struggling to get closer. Now to this very slippery Ferodo corner. That's where Richard Reynolds came to grief. And slippery it is because we've had a long and hard day's racing today. And there's a lot of oil and a lot of rubber on the circuit. Down Sherlock Street they go. The battle's going on all the way down the field. And number 40 is Paul Stewart, who continues to move up in magnificent style. He can't quite get through on the inside there of Gordon Wilson. That's Gordon Wilson in number 81 in the white Van Diemen, who almost shaves the barrier. Number 38 is Charlie Brown from Evesham, but 81 is Gordon Wilson, with now Stewart on his tail. Paul Stewart on the tail of Gordon Wilson, number 81. Behind them, number 5 is Mark Salter, and number 14, Cal Foster, 19-year-old Cal Foster, at the tail of that quartet. The leaders now on their 7th lap, and Paul Stewart now spins. It's Mark Salter. Mark Salter spins. I thought for a moment that was the blue car of Paul Stewart, but it's not. So that was Mark Salter spinning out of that group. But Paul Stewart indeed is still running well. Here we see it again, and it was just getting the tail go away, coming in tight, and the back end went as he went into Champion Corner. Cal Foster goes past harmlessly without getting involved in Mark Salter's spin. And there's our leader once more, Derek Higgins, on his own. As we look down the lap chart, Derek Higgins, Charlie Brown now 4.4 seconds behind in second place. Gordon Wilson still holding off Paul Stewart for third. With Mark Salter, he was in 5th place. He isn't anymore because of that spin, because we're now on the 7th lap, and look at Stewart. Stewart attacking Gordon Wilson. Paul Stewart goes through very neatly on the inside. A classic manoeuvre. His father would be proud of him. Paul Stewart goes through into 3rd place on the inside. Oh, and he clips the barrier. Not so classic. Paul Stewart hits the barrier, and I think he's damaged that car. Something is broken, I think, because it takes him a while to get the thing straight. Paul Stewart clouted the barrier, having just taken 3rd place. And I think one of the rear wheels on Stewart's car is at the wrong angle, and it may well be that you're going to see him slowing down now. Indeed, on his tail now is Cal Foster, who goes by, and you can see that there's something very much amiss with Paul Stewart's car. It's going very crab-tracked. He had just overtaken Gordon Wilson in superb style, but he went a little bit wide at that wicked zenith bend. The rear wheel clouts the barrier there, and somehow Gordon Wilson manages to squeeze by in the white Van Diemen, and now Paul Stewart tries to cope with a car that is really now not set up as it should be. One of the wheels pointing in quite the wrong direction, and I think that may well be the end of Stewart's race, and certainly the end of his run in 3rd place. What a shame for him. We've seen Justin Bell, the 2 sons of famous fathers, Justin Bell leading from pole position, only to spin out of the lead at the end of the 1st lap. And now we've seen Paul Stewart driving magnificently, having started in 15th place, I think, on the grid, having come all the way up to 3rd in only 7 laps, and then to lose it by just tapping one of these ever-present barriers here in Birmingham. That's number 81, Gordon Wilson. And he now is winding in Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown just ahead of him in 2nd place. The car, oh, and somebody's hit the barrier extremely hard there. We couldn't see who it was, but a big thump. He's out of the car, he's not hurt, but another Formula Ford car bites the Armco. And now the road at Zenith Bend is starting to look a little bit narrow with these various parked Formula Ford cars, but still the battle for 2nd place goes on. Behind Derek Higgins, we've got Charlie Brown and Gordon Wilson battling away on their 9th of 10 laps. Derek Higgins still the leader, but that's Gordon Wilson in number 81. He's got number 38, Charlie Brown, ahead of him. So Gordon Wilson from Paisley closing on the Evesham driver Charlie Brown, who started 2 rows behind him on the grid. It's been a dramatic and a crowded 10 laps for these chaps, but this is the 9th of 10 laps, and rather wide Charlie Brown coming out of Halfords corner, and that has allowed Gordon Wilson to get a little bit closer. Gordon Wilson then on this 9th of 10 laps, pursuing him as Derek Higgins goes through Ferodo corner as the other two approach Ferodo corner, and once more Gordon Wilson has a look at the inside, but Charlie Brown says not now, shuts the door on him at the front of that queue. Then Derek Higgins, our leader, and the battle going on this 9th of 10 laps for second place. That's Derek Higgins. And sliding out of Red X corner goes 38 Charlie Brown, 81 Gordon Wilson, and they couldn't be closer. Through all the parked and damaged cars, and this is the 9th of 10 laps, so Gordon Wilson, who's desperately keen to get this second place, which will mean 8 points in the Dunlop Autosport Star of Tomorrow Championship instead of 7 points, which is what he gets for finishing third, is determined to make up a place as they start their final lap. One side, then the other. Charlie Brown tries to keep the door shut. They go into Champion corner, and out of it safely, once more past Justin Bell's parked grey, into the half roundabout that is the Pye chicane, onto Belgrave Middleway, and up Peter Barwell Hill for the final time. Derek Higgins at the front of the picture, that's his lead, as he comes down and over the bump into Halfords, and still Charlie Brown keeps this second place. Gordon Wilson doing everything he can to find a route by. Gordon Wilson almost buried in the gearbox of Charlie Brown's car, but Charlie Brown keeps that second place. Gordon Wilson tries a wider line coming out of Halfords and onto the Belgrave Middleway. They go up to about 120 miles an hour in these little cars. Derek Higgins leads them down to Ferodo corner, and locked wheels there. In fact, it was both of them, I think, that locked up their brakes in their efforts to leave their braking late for Ferodo. It didn't do Gordon Wilson any good because Charlie Brown still has this second place, and it's difficult to know what he can do at this point to be able to make it. Charlie Brown in the Reynard, and very close once more is Gordon Wilson at Zenith Bend. Down Bromsgrove Street they go for the final time. Derek Higgins is ahead of them. Into the Shell corner with Richard Reynolds keeping a very, very tight line. Derek Higgins wins the race. A win for Derek Higgins. Charlie Brown takes second place. Gordon Wilson is third, but the championship leader, Derek Higgins, further consolidates his lead in the Dunlop Autosport Star of Tomorrow Championship after a tremendous drive in an eventful race, a race that was perhaps a little bit too eventful for both Justin Bell and for Paul Stewart, but a race which had just the right result for Derek Higgins, with Charlie Brown in second place and Gordon Wilson third. Fourth, Andy Charsley. Fifth, Mark Salter. And sixth, Peter Eccleston.